Guys, in this video I've got 3 golden lining tips for you, and by the end of this video I promise you will see an immediate improvement to your line work. One thing that a lot of people are doing wrong is they will line around corners and sharp edges using one motion. Now what this tends to do is affect the angle of the machine, which is going to give you inconsistent line weights on your tattoos. Guys, the secret to crispy lines is to use separate movements as much as possible. This keeps the depth and the angle consistent. So for these leaves we're going to use 2 identical motions. I'm using 6.5 volts here. I'm using a low and slow hand motion technique, but you can adjust this depending on how fast you are and what needles you're using. Using a 5 round liner here. Lots of line work tattoos will have sharp tips like the points of these leaves here, and these are the areas that will be very prone to going badly if you don't use this method. As you can see, this Gothic script has tons of spiky angles, so it's perfect to demonstrate this. So as you can see, I'm stopping and I'm repositioning the machine after every line, after every change of angle. Guys, a couple tips as well when you're tattooing dark skin tones. Just make sure you're saturating your lines as much as possible, and the thicker the lines, the better. It's always good practice to move forward as much as possible, and we are using the opening of the cartridge cover as a reference. I'm going to show you an incorrect way of approaching this tattoo. So as you can see, we're moving backwards with the machine unnecessarily, and we're also going over the sharpest point in one motion. So the correct way to approach these leaves is moving forward for consistency, 2 motions for the corner, and by that we are getting 2 sides that are identical in depth and thickness. This is because the angle of the machine is always the same. Now guys, let's move on to the next tip. Guys, one thing you should know is that you can get the effect of a bigger needle configuration, so thicker lines, but with lighter needles. And we do this by using a round shader. Now notice the needles are flat, aligned flat on the top. Guys, this is great for getting those one-pass lines where you don't want to cause much trauma to the skin. It's great for areas where the skin's a little bit thinner. Guys, just go slow with this one as it takes a little bit longer to pack the ink in. Guys, bear in mind that it is harder to get consistent depth with a round shader, but it does result in quite a nice finish. Guys, when you're tattooing different areas, gravity isn't always going to be on your side, so you may need to adjust how much the needle is coming out of the machine, aka the throw, or use a longer stroke machine. These round shaders are great for doing thick black work, so as you can see here I'm using the scumbling method to pack in black as well as find the edges at the same time. Guys, as I say, these round shaders are great because they cause much less trauma to the skin than a normal liner. This is due to the spread out needles which create smaller holes in the skin. Guys, I'm using a 5 round shader in all of these real skin clips. I also think these are great for detailed colour work and colouring in tight areas. Funnily enough guys, one of the things I don't use the round shader much for is shading, but it is actually a great utility needle. So guys, let's move on to our 3rd tip. So this is a strong bit of advice for you. So one thing you're going to find with a lot of tattoo styles is they need a bit of a less rigid approach to the line work. So what we're going to do is flick out slightly when we're exiting to avoid a hard edge. We're also avoiding contact with the skin until we are moving in the direction we want to place our line. So not using this technique is a bit more forgiving on lower voltages, but if you are holding the machine still for too long, especially on a higher voltage, then you're actually going to get inconsistent lines and dark spots. So guys, make sure you're moving your whole arm when you're pulling straight lines and not just your wrist. Just remember, all these techniques are not going to be necessary for every tattoo. So guys, hope you got value out of these tips. Do subscribe if you can, and I will see you next time.